So I want to talk Preservation Evoker nerfs, like, in depth. Because this, of all the stuff we've been talking about with the new patch, this was the thing that, like, hit me in the heart. So we already knew about these two. Temporal Anomaly absorption value reduced by 20%, and Resonating Sphere now applies Echo to the first 4 allies hit, down from 6. And, like, when this was the only nerf going out, my thought was, like, as Evoker players, we should be, like, pretty happy about that, because it could have been a lot worse. I mean, Temporal Anomaly absorption value down 20%. Like, obviously that's a more of a raid thing. Like, if we look at that key we just finished, I mean, that's still my 3rd heal overall. So 20% down from that is going to be, you know, significant, but not life ending. But in raid, Temporal Anomaly makes up a huge portion of your healing. So raid evokers, you know, are going to be concerned about that. And then Resonating Sphere now applies echoes to the first 4 allies instead of 6. Like, again, like, you know, in Mythic Plus, it's not the biggest deal. Like, you're going to have to spend another global to blanket the whole group in echoes. But in raid, like, if you think of how many echoes you get out from Temporal Anomaly and you just, like, you know, factor that down from 6 to 4, that's so much fewer echoes than you were getting. So, like, this is pretty significant for raid. It's like, I feel like it's kind of annoying for Mythic Plus. Like, I wish they had made it 5 just to keep the playstyle intact. Like, you could make it weaker, but just now you're gonna have to manually echo, like, that one guy every time. It's just like a pain in the butt. But that was the first set they came out with, and that was like, well, we kind of saw that coming, right? Evoker's like crazy good. But then these two were the ones that came out yesterday, and these guys were rough. So, you know, the way that Temporal Anomaly is supposed to work is it applies a Resonating Sphere, excuse me. It applies echoes at a, you know, a smaller rate, 30% effectiveness. So when you do, you know, healing from a Temporal Anomaly echo, doesn't heal as much as a manually casted echo. But these two talents were, like, subverting that. They were still doing 100% of their healing when they were applied through a Temporal Anomaly echo. So, like, one way you could look at it is like, well, this was maybe not working as intended, but it kind of sucks now. You know, we have to go, like, we've been playing like this, and now we're losing that. So, Lifebind and Golden Hour, when they're applied through Temporal Anomaly, you know, now they're doing the reduced amount of healing. So, you know, Golden Hour, which is a huge talent for evokers, instantly heals back 15% of the damage that you took in the last 5 seconds. So, you know, group takes a big chunk of damage. Pretty common, you're going to Temporal Anomaly them, throw out a reversion, and then get a whole bunch of Golden Hour healing. Well, now you're only going to be doing 30% of that 15%. Now, I swore to never do math on YouTube again, but that's significantly less. Significantly less. And Lifebind, similarly. So when anybody affected by Verdant Embrace, like, in any way, they get the Lifebind buff, and then like 40 you get this, like, 40% healing share, right, with anybody else that's got Lifebind, and the evoker themselves. So this is why getting out a bunch of Lifebinds and then using Emerald Communion is so good, because they're like, it's like everybody's, like, healing each other, and it does a ridiculous amount of healing. So now if you're getting those echoes from Temporal Anomaly, you're talking about way less healing from Lifebind either. So Like if you stretch that across raid, that's a huge throughput nerf for raid. Like I know in raid Golden Hour does a significant amount of healing, and you can do some crazy, you know, Emerald Communion ramps too. How much was Lifebind and Golden Hour in that dungeon? Let's see, because Ruby Life Pool is a pretty good test. Like there's a lot of healing going on in there. Let's see. Lifebind was my 4th overall heal. And Golden Hour was my 9th. Now this could vary. Like Lifebind a lot of times will be lower. Golden Hour a lot of times will be higher. It just kind of depends on the damage profile, but that's a significant throughput nerf. In Raid, it's huge. In Mythic Plus, it's like, I mean, I don't know what a like Lifebind Emerald Communion ramp in a Mythic Plus with that reduced amount of healing, so you're only getting 30% of the 40%. Again, I swore off YouTube math because every time I do it, like I get corrected by a million people, but it's much less than 40%. So that's pretty ouch, guys. Like that's gonna be like, if I was, you know, I'm more of a Mythic Plus player, but if I was a you know, a raid main like Preservation Evoker, like if I was in a, you know, mythic raiding at the moment and like worried about getting benched, this would have me pretty concerned. Like I'd be thinking about playing another healer. And then even in Mythic Plus, like that's gonna hurt. That's gonna hurt. This is not an insignificant amount of healing. Now, I think that every Emerald Communion I threw out there in that dungeon was probably from Temporal Anomaly. Golden Hour's coming from all sorts of sources. So that one may not be as bad, but I think Evoker is it's not gonna be top dog anymore. I really don't. In Raid, absolutely not. In Mythic Plus, it's still gonna be really, really good, I think, because Evokers have like a ridiculous amount of tools. And even taking a couple of them away, like they still have like more than anybody. So I'm not as concerned. You know, it wasn't that long ago that like people were like, is Temporal Anomaly even good in Mythic Plus? And then all of a sudden a bunch of people were like, yes it is. And now we rely on it like crazy. But I mean, I was pushing into the 20s without Temporal Anomaly at all early in the season, and I was literally just manually echoing everybody. I mean, we made it work. And then like once I got Temporal Anomaly, it's just like this lazy, like, oh, now I just throw this, you know, everybody that touches your balls gets echoes. At least they're doing it before the major patch comes out, so like we can kind of try before you buy, you know. And if we are like, oh boy, Evoker's in trouble, like we got time to gear up another healer or play something else. Because I will say these buffs to these Emerald Blossom related skills or talents, I have no interest in playing Emerald Blossom. I have no interest in that. Emerald Blossom is boring and clunky and only good when everybody's stacked up. And I don't want to be forced into that play style. Well, I won't be, because what I'll do is just play something else. Now, Evoker hasn't really been around long enough, so there probably aren't that many people that are just like gonna put their hands on their hips and say, I am an Evoker main for life. So if you give in to this like boring play style, I worry about what you're doing with the class a little bit too. Like I kind of wish they would have just done some throughput nerfs and kept the play style intact. Like I could deal with it being a little bit weaker, but if I gotta play Emerald Blossom, I'm out, guys. I'm out. Yeah, I don't have any interest in playing Emerald Blossom. So we'll see. 10.0.7 March 23rd, right? Definitely do some testing then, and if it's terrible, then you know, hey, I am having a lot of fun on Disc Priest.